many years ago in a bustling apartment complex in Riverside Estate, where people's lives were so interconnected that if one person sneezed, the whole building would shout, "Bless you." Two couples lived side by side, pretending to be friends but secretly competing in everything. On one side were Marcus and Diana, always smiling as if life owed them a trophy. Marcus worked as a sales manager at a telecommunications company, while Diana taught at the local primary school. On the other side were James and Patricia, who were equally loud, equally proud, and equally determined never to allow anyone to outshine them. James was an accountant at a small firm, and Patricia worked as a nurse at the community clinic. At first, it started almost like play. When Diana bought a new dress with small sequins, Patricia would appear the following Sunday with an outfit that looked like it was plucked straight from a fashion magazine. She would deliberately pass in front of Diana's door 3 times so she would notice. When James changed his work bag and carried a fine leather briefcase from the downtown market, Marcus would appear the next day with a designer bag that carried a big logo across the side, and he would adjust it so that everyone could see. The building residents knew what was happening, and because idle gossip was their favorite sport, they fueled the fire with their tongues. "Ha! Did you see Diana's outfit yesterday?" Mrs. Thompson would say while sorting her mail at the lobby, and Mrs. Rodriguez would answer, "Outfit? Wait now until Patricia shows her own on Sunday. That one hates to come in second place." They would all laugh, carrying the gossip from one end of the building to another, while the two women in question pretended not to hear. Yet in their hearts, they were plotting their next move. The husbands, too, were not innocent. Instead of focusing on their careers, Marcus and James began to treat every little achievement like an Olympic medal. If James bought a small second-hand laptop, Marcus would rush to the electronics store the next week and buy a slightly bigger one with better features. Then he would deliberately use it in the common area when everyone was around, just to announce that his device was superior. James, who had sworn not to be outdone, would borrow from his credit union and buy a tablet with a keyboard. Then he would stand in the parking lot, typing with style and shouting, "Patricia, look at this. I can work from anywhere now." It was a ridiculous battle, but the problem was that both couples were too proud to admit they were competing. They would greet each other with fake smiles, saying things like, "Ah, Diana, your hairstyle is beautiful," while secretly thinking, "I will shock you next week with my new look." The building children, who noticed everything, began to give them secret nicknames. Marcus and Diana were called Mr. and Mrs. Show-Off, while James and Patricia were called Mr. and Mrs. One-Up. Now, the real comedy came during dinner time in that apartment complex. Food aroma traveled faster than gossip, and once a woman started cooking, the whole building would know whether she was preparing pasta, stew, or just boiling water. One evening, Patricia cooked a special curry with premium ingredients, and the aroma alone nearly made the single people in the building line up with their plates. Diana, who had just made sandwiches that night, became restless. She hissed and told Marcus, "This woman wants to embarrass me. Tomorrow you must give me money. I will cook a meal that will humble her." Marcus, who was tired from work, tried to argue, but Diana refused to hear anything. The very next day, true to her word, she bought premium cuts of meat and fresh vegetables and began preparing an elaborate dinner, making sure the sound of her cooking echoed through the building like a celebration. Of course, Patricia was not one to accept defeat. The following week, she borrowed money from James's savings account, bought expensive seafood, organic produce, and plenty of spices, and cooked a meal that nearly sent people into a trance. She even called neighborhood children to taste small samples and run around praising her cooking. The whole building laughed until tears came out because they knew these two women were in a battle that had no referee. It didn't even end there because the husbands, Marcus and James, added fuel to the competition. Whenever they were having drinks at the local bar instead of minding their own business, they would start boasting. Marcus would say, "My Diana is the best cook in this city." Even food critics would envy her skills. And James would reply, "Who needs fancy cooking when Patricia's meals can make a sick man rise? If you taste it, you'll forget your own name." Then they would laugh loudly and shake hands, pretending to be friends, yet both would return home and push their wives. "Make sure you beat her next week. Don't let me down." And the wives didn't disappoint their husbands because the very next week, the kitchen battle escalated to a silent statement of, "I have more money than you." If you're enjoying this story of rivalry and pride, don't forget to like this video and share it with your friends who need to hear this message. What do you think will happen next? Drop your predictions in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss our stories. That morning, Patricia decided to cook her own special meal, the kind that required serious investment. She had gone to the organic market early to buy premium ingredients: grass-fed beef, imported spices, fresh herbs, and exotic vegetables. Even the cashiers noticed how she was shopping with confidence. One of them joked, "Ma'am, who are you trying to impress?" Patricia laughed. "My family deserves the best." But in her heart, she was already imagining Diana's face when the aroma would fill the building. By 11 o'clock, the whole place was vibrating with delicious smells. Neighbors passing by the hallway began to slow their steps. One man even stopped dramatically and said, "Who's cooking this feast today?" Children started gathering near her door, peeking and hoping for samples. Patricia deliberately left her door slightly open so that the scent would travel well, and each time she stirred the pot, she raised the spoon high in the air as if she was performing for an audience. Meanwhile, Diana was inside her own apartment preparing a simple salad when the smell hit her nose. At first, she tried to ignore it, but as the aroma grew thicker, her mood changed. She dropped the vegetables, hissed and shouted, "Marcus!" Her husband, who was watching television on the couch, raised his head lazily. "What now? Can't you smell it? Patricia is cooking something that smells expensive, and you want me to sit here and be embarrassed? Tomorrow you must give me money. I will cook a gourmet meal with all the finest ingredients. Let her smell that one too." Marcus groaned. "Diana, money isn't growing on trees. Why can't we just enjoy what we have? This simple meal is perfectly fine." "Fine. Fine," Diana screamed. "So you want people in this building to gossip that Diana cannot match Patricia? Marcus, I swear, if you don't give me that money, I will be very upset." Marcus sighed deeply, rubbed his forehead, and then pulled out his credit card he had been saving for emergencies. "Take it, but please, don't kill us with this competition." The next day, the building witnessed what residents later called the Cooking Olympics. Diana carried out her finest pots, prepared expensive cuts of meat so elaborately that it sounded like a professional chef was at work, and created side dishes that echoed culinary sophistication. She deliberately left her kitchen window open so that the aroma would flow out like perfume, and truly it worked because by afternoon, neighbors were commenting positively. One resident whispered, "This one surpasses yesterday's meal." Even children came running again. Diana, not wanting to be outdone by Patricia, went further and invited several neighbors over. She served them small portions, pretended to be generous, but was secretly marking it as victory. Patricia saw what was happening and nearly collapsed. "So this woman wants to use fancy cooking to defeat me," she muttered. But she held her smile tight and whispered to James, "Don't worry, I will show her next time." From that day, the kitchen turned into a battlefield. One week Patricia would cook elaborate meals with multiple courses. The next week, Diana would prepare restaurant-quality dishes and invite the neighbors. Their doors became like dining establishments, opened wide with aromas pouring out like advertisements. And of course, the gossip truly poured. Mrs. Thompson laughed. "These women are turning food into a competition show." Mrs. Rodriguez added, "Let them continue. By the end of the year, we'll know whose bank account will empty first." Even the children mocked them, singing, cooking fight, who will win?" as they ran around the building. The husbands, too, were adding gas to the fire. When Marcus ate Diana's gourmet meal, he deliberately praised it loudly until the whole building heard. "Ah, this food is heavenly." And when James ate Patricia's elaborate dinner, he also made a performance. He stood in the hallway and said, "If you eat this food, you'll think you're in a 5-star restaurant." The competition became so ridiculous that even visitors noticed. One day, A minister came to visit a neighbor and was almost overwhelmed by the aroma of premium cooking from Diana's apartment and exotic spices from Patricia's door battling in the same corridor. He finished his visit quickly and muttered, "These families will bankrupt themselves over food." However, the cooking battle was only the beginning. By the time the women finished competing with meals, their minds shifted to the next arena: fashion. Whoever dressed better automatically carried respect, whether she had savings or not. One Sunday morning, Patricia stepped out for church in sparkling designer attire she claimed came straight from an exclusive boutique. The outfit was so eye-catching that it made her look like she had stepped off a runway. As she walked past the hallway, neighbors commented playfully, "Ah, Patricia, please reduce the glamour. It's too much shine for a regular Sunday." Diana, who was already dressed in a simple church outfit, froze by her door. She watched Patricia deliberately walk with confidence as the designer clothes sparkled impressively. She hissed, "So it has reached this level. She wants to outshine me in this building." Marcus. Her husband was adjusting his tie inside when he answered, "What again?" "Tomorrow you must give me money. I will buy my own designer outfit that will make everyone notice. They will be amazed when I pass." Marcus groaned. "Diana, are we the richest people here? Every time you want to compete with this woman, you forget that I'm not made of money." But Diana would not listen. "Don't embarrass me. Do you want them to say I'm falling behind? Please, if you care about me, find the money. This is important." Marcus scratched his head, but because pride also lived inside him, he said nothing more. By the next weekend, Diana appeared in church with an outfit so stylish that even the choir members turned during worship to look. She deliberately sat in the front row with her head held high and carried herself with confidence until ushers offered her compliments. Patricia nearly fainted when she saw Diana's expensive clothes. The battle spilled into accessories. Patricia bought jewelry that looked expensive enough to catch everyone's attention, and she displayed it every evening while checking her mailbox outside. Diana, trying not to be outdone, rushed to a jewelry store and bought pieces on credit. The necklace was so elaborate that it became a conversation piece. When people asked, she smiled proudly, "It's authentic, imported quality." The real comedy came when the children in the building started comparing them. One little girl shouted, "Auntie Patricia's jewelry shines brighter than Auntie Diana's." Another answered, "No, Auntie Diana's is prettier." They began arguing until neighbors had to separate them, laughing so hard that day that tears rolled down their cheeks. Now, if the women were fighting over fashion, the men were fighting over vehicles. James was the first to strike. One Friday evening, he drove into the building parking lot with a used sedan, honking the horn until everyone came out to see. He leaned on the hood with style and said, "It's nothing special. I just decided to upgrade my transportation." The building residents clapped. Young people cheered, and children ran around the car touching it as if it was something magical. Diana dragged Marcus inside their apartment angrily. "Can you see? James has bought a car. So you want me to continue taking the bus to work while Patricia is riding like royalty in a vehicle?" Marcus swallowed hard. "Diana, where do you expect me to find money for a car? Sell something, borrow, anything. I don't care. If James has a car, you must buy one too. This is not about transportation. It's about respect." And so, Marcus went behind her back and borrowed heavily from his credit union. 2 months later, he drove into the parking lot with a nicer sedan. The horn sounded so loudly that people rushed outside thinking there was an emergency. He stood beside the car with his sunglasses on, announcing, "Just a small upgrade." The whole building nearly collapsed in laughter. So this competition is now official. By now, the apartment complex had turned into an entertainment venue. Whenever either couple stepped outside, people watched from their windows just to see what would happen next. It became like a television series. Episode 1, Cooking Wars. Episode 2, Fashion Face-Off. Episode 3, Vehicle Vanity. Nobody wanted to miss the next episode. Unfortunately, The competition had already started draining their finances. Marcus and James were both running their homes like they were wealthy executives, with impressive appearances outside but struggling budgets inside. Marcus could barely sleep at night because creditors were calling. Yet during the day, he would polish his car and stand beside it like a successful businessman. James, who had secretly taken a large loan to buy his vehicle and sponsor Patricia's shopping habits, would still boast at the local bar with a drink in his hand. "My life is better than everyone else's here." The wives were the directors of this show, constantly pushing their husbands every night. "Don't let me down. Next week we must show them something better," until everything collapsed on itself. The neighbors were the ones who predicted disaster. One morning, while residents were collecting their mail at the lobby, Mrs. Thompson said, Marcus and Diana are showing off too much these days. I wonder if their finances can support all this." Mrs. Rodriguez, who was sorting through her letters, leaned forward and muttered, "Forget all that glamour. I heard Marcus borrowed money from the credit union for business, but he used it to buy that car. Let's just wait and see." The residents nodded, and the gossip spread faster than news headlines. Unfortunately, that same week, the first drama arrived. Two well-dressed men walked into the building one hot afternoon, looking serious and heading straight for Diana's apartment. "Tell your husband to come out. If he doesn't settle his debt today, we will repossess this vehicle," one of them announced loudly. Diana's heart almost jumped out of her chest. She ran inside to where Marcus was relaxing on the couch scrolling through his phone. "Marcus, people are outside threatening to take our car. What is going on?" Marcus sat up immediately. "Don't worry about them. It's just a small misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding?" Diana screamed. "They are saying they will take our car. You told me you bought it with savings." Marcus hissed, stood up, and adjusted his shirt. "Sure, keep your voice down. Don't embarrass us in front of everyone. I will handle this." But it was too late because by then, neighbors had already started watching from their windows. Children had gathered as if it was a show, and Mrs. Rodriguez was already commenting, "I knew this would happen." Marcus stepped out with fake confidence, smiling. "Gentlemen, no need to make a scene. I will settle this next week." But the men weren't smiling. "Sir, you said that last month. We are tired of waiting. We will have to take the vehicle now if you don't pay us." Diana nearly fainted. "Ha! You want them to take our pride." In panic, Marcus begged them loudly. He even pleaded desperately. "Please, just give me one more week." The creditors looked at each other, shook their heads, and finally left, but not before warning him, "If we return and you haven't paid, forget about this car." As soon as they left, the entire building erupted with commentary and whispered conversations. One young resident exclaimed, "The competition has backfired." Another added, "Imagine borrowing money just to impress people." Diana locked herself inside, shaking with embarrassment. But instead of learning from this, she turned to Marcus that night and said, "Next week, you must pay them. I cannot allow Patricia to mock me, no matter what. Our car must stay." Marcus, who was exhausted and broke, just closed his eyes and nodded. Well, James and Patricia were not spared either. Their own secrets were starting to emerge. James had taken multiple loans just to buy his vehicle and finance Patricia's expensive lifestyle. He thought nobody would discover this, but financial troubles have a way of becoming public knowledge. Soon, collection agents came to the building looking for him, and the entire complex heard about his debts. "So both families are living beyond their means," residents exclaimed. "This is trouble." Patricia too had her secrets exposed. One evening, Diana saw her cleaning her expensive jewelry in the hallway and mocked her. "So you're still maintaining that costume jewelry. If you handle it too roughly, it will break." Patricia flared up immediately. "Be quiet. It's not fake. My husband bought this from a premium store." But the children, who had sharp ears, had already heard and started chanting, "Fake, fake, fake." until she chased them away. The laughter was overwhelming, and even neighbors who tried to hide their amusement couldn't contain it. It was clear that the two couples had transformed from the building's admired families to the building's source of entertainment, and the rivalry was now hurting them more than helping. Marcus could barely eat because of debt stress. James had damaged relationships because of his pride, while Diana and Patricia were growing anxious as they constantly calculated how to outdo each other with the next display, even when money wasn't available. The building residents, instead of feeling sorry for them, just observed and waited. One man said, "This drama is interesting, but the ending will be even more revealing. Let's see what happens." And truly, the ending was approaching because Patricia soon decided to throw a birthday party for her daughter, Faith. To her, it wasn't just a birthday celebration. It was an opportunity to prove once and for all that she and James were the premier family in the building. From the beginning of the week, she started announcing it loudly. On Saturday, everyone should prepare. Faith is turning 6, and we must celebrate her properly. There will be a DJ, decorations, plenty of food, catered dishes, and desserts. I guarantee you have never seen a party like this before. Neighbors nodded politely, but in their minds, they were thinking, this woman never learns. She still wants to use a birthday party to compete. James, who was already drowning in debt, scratched his head nervously. Patricia, where will we get money for all these decorations and entertainment? But Patricia became angry. Be quiet. Don't embarrass me. You think Diana won't be watching? If we don't make this party spectacular, she will mock me forever. Even if you have to borrow more, do it confidently. James knew he would have no peace if he refused, so he sighed deeply and went ahead to take out another loan. The long-awaited Saturday arrived, and by 10 in the morning, the building common area had transformed into a festival. Colorful decorations stretched across the space, folding chairs were arranged neatly, and music was booming from speakers so loud that even people from nearby buildings began to gather. Children wore party hats. Women dressed up nicely. Men stood around with drinks, and the smell of catered food filled the air. Faith wore a pink dress with sequins, looking like a little princess, and Patricia followed her around proudly, scanning to see who was watching. Diana sat in a corner pretending not to care, but her heart was boiling. She hissed and muttered to Marcus, "See how she's showing off like a celebrity. Don't worry. Next month, Kevin will celebrate his birthday, and we'll surpass this. I will hire live musicians, not just a DJ." Marcus groaned. "Diana, please. We are still owing the credit union. Do you want us to go bankrupt before we rest?" But Diana refused to listen. "Don't let me down. You must find the money. Patricia cannot outdo me." The party was going well. There was plenty of food, drinks, and children were dancing happily under the decorations. Then suddenly, the atmosphere changed dramatically. 3 stern-looking men in business attire walked into the building, followed by a security officer. They went straight to James. "James," one of them said firmly, "we have given you enough time. Today you must settle your debt or face serious consequences." The entire gathering went silent. Music stopped. People froze with food halfway to their mouths. Patricia jumped up. "Ha! Today of all days? Can't you see we are celebrating?" The man responded coldly. "Celebration without payment is meaningless. You owe us significant money, and today you will face the consequences." James stammered, Please give me until Monday. I will pay you. I promise." But the security officer cut him short. "If you don't have the money now, we have no choice but to take action." The crowd gasped. Patricia began to wail. "Ah, my enemies want to disgrace me." She grabbed her head with both hands and sat on the floor crying. Children ran around in confusion. Some even started giggling at the dramatic scene. One little boy shouted, "Uncle James, pay your debt," and the whole building burst into uncomfortable laughter. As if that wasn't enough, while people were still murmuring about James's situation, another creditor stormed in, this time looking for Marcus. "Where is the man with the fancy sedan?" the man shouted, his voice louder than the DJ's speakers. "If he doesn't pay me today, I will repossess that vehicle right now." The crowd reacted with shock again. People turned and looked at both James and Marcus in disbelief. Diana almost collapsed. "Not today," she cried out. Mrs. Thompson laughed openly. "I said it before." The way these people were competing, it had to end in embarrassment. Now the building common area was like a marketplace. Two families, two groups of creditors, one security officer, and a whole audience watching the drama unfold in real time. The DJ quietly packed his equipment and slipped away, muttering, "I can't play music during this disaster." Finally, James agreed to leave with the men to resolve his debts. He walked as if the ground would swallow him. Patricia cried louder, but nobody comforted her. People just shook their heads and whispered, "You see, this is what competition and pride do to people." On the other side, Marcus begged his creditor until his voice cracked. "Please don't take the car. If you take it, everyone will mock us." The man responded harshly, "Sir, people are already mocking you. Better find my money." By the end of the day, the birthday party had turned into building-wide gossip. No one talked about faith celebration or the food they ate. All they discussed was the public humiliation. Imagine using a party to hide debts. Competition has no winners, but shame definitely has. These couples are now the building's cautionary tale. After the disgrace at the birthday party, life in the building was never the same again. The neighbors had received free entertainment, and now every evening, instead of watching television, they gathered outside to discuss and laugh about the drama. "Did you see how the security officer treated James like a child?" Mrs. Thompson would say. And Mrs. Rodriguez would reply, "I beg your pardon, forget James." The one that amazed me most was when Marcus knelt down in front of his creditor, begging desperately. If you saw the way he looked, you would have cried from laughter. Then everybody would burst into laughter until tears rolled down their faces. The nicknames spread quickly. James was now called Debt Man because of his financial troubles, while Marcus was christened Mr. Repossessed. Even the children joined in. Whenever they saw him, they would run around chanting, Uncle Repo," and ran away before he could catch them. Diana and Patricia, who once prided themselves as the queens and trendsetters of the building, now became shadows of their former selves. They no longer walked proudly or cooked elaborate meals with open doors. Instead, they moved quietly to their kitchens, praying that nobody would notice them cooking simple meals with basic ingredients. Their expensive clothes were now folded inside closets, waiting for better days that refused to come. And then one evening, the creditors finally repossessed Marcus's vehicle. It was the most public humiliation yet. They came with a tow truck, secured the car in front of the entire building, and hauled it away like discarded property. Marcus tried to argue. "Wait, please let me explain." But they didn't even acknowledge him. By the time the car disappeared down the street, neighbors were laughing so hard that Mrs. Thompson almost choked on her drink. Diana fainted dramatically in the hallway, but when people rushed to help her, instead of showing pity, they laughed harder. She wanted to outshine everybody. Now see her pride being towed away. James and Patricia too were facing their own crisis. The landlord, who had been patient for months, finally lost his temper. He stood in the building lobby one morning shouting, "James, you are driving a car and wearing expensive clothes, yet you're owing me 6 months' rent. You borrowed money for luxury while neglecting your basic obligations. You people must vacate my property by this weekend." Neighbors reacted as if they were watching a performance. Someone shouted, "Landlord, please give them more time so our entertainment can continue." The landlord ignored them. And that week, James and Patricia packed their belongings in shame as children followed them outside singing, "Debt Man bye-bye, fake jewelry bye-bye." The humiliation was overwhelming. Patricia covered her face with a scarf and complained to everyone about enemies, while James muttered under his breath, "Evil people have succeeded." But deep inside, he knew it was his own pride and competitive spirit that destroyed him. Diana and Marcus, who were still in the building, now became the main targets of gossip and mockery. Diana would sit on the balcony looking defeated, and neighbors would point and discuss her situation openly. Even Mrs. Rodriguez, who once praised her elaborate cooking, now mocked them publicly. You see, the cooking wars ended in disaster. They wanted to show us luxury. Now they're experiencing poverty. One evening, Mr. Thompson, a quiet man who rarely joined the gossip sessions, told everyone during a building meeting, "Look at me. I have never bought designer clothes or fancy vehicles. Yet my children are eating well, going to good schools, and I sleep peacefully without creditors knocking at my door. Contentment is the real wealth, not competition." The neighbors nodded in agreement. They all understood the message. Then everybody turned their eyes to Diana and Marcus, who were sitting quietly in the corner. Nobody needed to say more. The lesson was crystal clear. At last, Marcus sighed and broke the silence. "This competition has destroyed me financially and emotionally. If I had just focused on my own life, we would not be drowning in debt like this. Diana, you and Patricia pushed us into this fire." Diana snapped back defensively. "So it's my fault? Were you not the one showing off with expensive cars? Did I force you to borrow that loan?" The neighbors laughed again, realizing that the couple had not yet learned true humility. However, one thing was certain. Their names had already entered the building's history as the people who tried to outshine others but ended up destroying themselves with shame and debt. The building residents clung to this story for months and even years. Whenever a new tenant tried to show off or live beyond their means, someone would say, "Be careful. Don't become like Marcus and James," and everyone would laugh in remembrance. Over time, both couples had to completely restart their lives. Marcus and Diana moved to a smaller, more affordable apartment across town. Marcus took a second job to pay off his debts, and Diana learned to shop at discount stores instead of boutiques. James and Patricia moved back in with family members, forced to rebuild from scratch. James worked overtime to clear his loans, and Patricia took up extra nursing shifts to help with expenses. The transformation was slow but real. Marcus eventually said to Diana one quiet evening, "You know, I'm actually happier now. We don't have much, but we also don't have stress. I sleep peacefully." Diana nodded, tears in her eyes. "I was foolish. I let pride and jealousy control me. Patricia wasn't my enemy. My own insecurity was." Similarly, James told Patricia one day, "The best decision I ever made was moving away from that competitive environment. Now I measure success by our peace, not by what others think." Years later, Marcus and James coincidentally met at a financial literacy seminar. They looked at each other, and instead of pride or shame, they both smiled knowingly. "We were fools," Marcus said. "Complete fools," James agreed. "But at least we learned." They shook hands, this time with genuine friendship, not competition. Both had learned that the race to impress others is a race with no finish line, only casualties along the way. The lesson spread throughout their community. Contentment is not settling for less. It's being wise enough not to destroy yourself trying to impress people who don't matter. True wealth is peace of mind, not the approval of neighbors. And the most expensive thing you can buy is a lifestyle you cannot afford to maintain. As for Diana and Patricia, they too eventually reconnected at a community event. They laughed about their foolishness, apologized to each other, and became genuine friends, not competitors, but supporters. "We wasted so much money trying to beat each other," Diana said. "And for what?" Patricia replied. "Nobody even remembers those expensive outfits or elaborate meals. They only remember our disgrace. But they'll also remember how we changed," Diana added hopefully. And they did change. Both women became advocates for financial wisdom in their new communities, sharing their story as a cautionary tale to help others avoid the same mistakes. The story of the competitive couples became a teaching moment that echoed through neighborhoods, reminding everyone that pride comes before destruction, and the need to impress others can lead to the loss of everything that truly matters. And that's the end of this powerful story. What lessons did you learn from Marcus, Diana, James, and Patricia's experience? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, give it a thumbs up and share it with your loved ones who need to hear this message about contentment and avoiding destructive competition. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already so you never miss our life-changing stories. Remember, contentment is not about having less. It's about appreciating what you have. Until I bring another story your way, stay blessed and stay humble. Goodbye.